Recording video.
Hey folks, it's Flying Jake, and today I'm going to do an overview on two shows. This is a ruthless review. I do these every once in a while. And the shows in question here, I'm going to do one on Law & Order SVU, Season 5, Episode 6. The name of the show is Coerced. And then the other one is an episode that I just finished watching of Untold Stories of the ER. And now I'm going to do the long one first, which is Law & Order SVU, Season 5, Episode 6, Coerced. If you ask me, this was the most... Oh man, I remember the first time I saw this thing when it aired in October of 2003. And let me tell you, this is an episode that had me really fired up. Okay, this guy may have had schizophrenia, but I do not for a second believe that he was under the complete control of his delusions. I'm going to talk about this episode, and I hope that people, I hope that I don't, offend people. But if you have a weak heart, please don't listen to this. Okay, the episode begins, and you have to hear me out. You got to see where I'm coming from. And I have to say this. I have an uncle who had schizophrenia, and he would have never done anything like this. God bless his soul. He died of congestive heart failure years ago. He was a good man, an honest man, though he had schizophrenia. That's not his fault. That's not his fault. It's nobody's fault when they have schizophrenia. But the episode begins with this mother, and she calls her son down for breakfast. She's on the phone with her ex-husband, and the older son of the two wants to, spend time with his dad. And the mother says, no, we're going to grandma's. And she calls again, Adam, it's time for breakfast. And she tells Eric to go up and see what's going on. So Eric goes up there, and you hear, Mom, hurry, come up here. She goes up there. The window screen had been cut. Adam is gone. The scene then begins with this. The scene changes. To the SVU detectives. They're talking it over, and there's Stabler and Benson and Tutuola, Captain Cragen. They're just talking things over, and they question the mother, Carolyn, and she's determined that it was her ex-husband who did it. Well, they bring an expert in to analyze the screen, and they think originally that the screen was cut from the inside. So that made them suspect that perhaps either Carolyn or Eric did something with Adam. Or maybe they both conspired. But on further examination, it was discovered that the side that was supposed to face in to the house was actually on the outside. Somebody installed the screen backwards, so the side that was outside had weathering due to the elements. The frame of the screen was weathered. So that really saved Carolyn and Big Brother Eric. But now the question was about her husband Peter. So they questioned Peter, and he's adamant that he wouldn't hurt his son. Well, in the meantime, Finn Tutuola, who had been canvassing the area, gets a report from a witness that the boy was spotted with somebody. They were carrying him near a grocery store. It's a grocery store that has been open for almost every day since its founding, and on this particular day it's not open. So they lift the gate. Now in cities like New York, a lot of the businesses have in front of their glass doors, they have these gates that slide down like garage doors, so they could pull them down and protect their businesses from being broken into. So they say, okay, let's lift the gate. So they lift that gate, and they see through the glass door a man on the floor. He appears to be hurt bad. He's bleeding, but he's breathing. they break the window, and they go inside, and there's another man who's dead, okay? The store's owner and co-owner had been viciously sliced and diced. And, well, they send the medics in to take care of the one who's breathing and everything, and they call the coroner to, come out and do a, excuse me, on the poor fellow who was dead. And, well, they go down in the basement, and they find out that this guy, whoever took Adam, was living down there. He had pictures of the boy, who he had circled and written. He's calling the boy Tate. He's calling the boy Tate. And one of them says, "I'm coming to get you, son." And, just another thing. He come to find out, he lived in the basement of that store. He worked there. Well, they go out and they canvass the area looking for this Kevin Walker is the guy's name. Kevin James Walker. Well, a while later, after surgery, the store's co-owner wakes up. So Detective Stabler goes there to talk to him. And the guy's name was Emilio Vasquez. And he tells all about the incident that led up to his injuries and Lester Hale's death. He said, "I was working late. Kevin came in with the boy. Lester and I were in the store. I knew who the boy was, and Lester told me to take him home. Kevin went ballistic. He called us hombres malos, which is Spanish for madmen. And then he sliced and diced them both with a box cutter. Lester Hale and Emilio Vasquez." So now everybody's on heightened alert. Kevin has to be found before anything worse happens. God knows what he could do to that little boy. They're looking all over for him. Come to find out, he's a paranoid schizophrenic. Well, Olivia Benson spots him dumpster diving after she hears a crash. And, excuse me, it's my allergies. Anyway, she tells Elliot, across the street, dumpster. So they go over there, and they, Olivia approaches Kevin, and she says, "Pardon me, can you help me find," and she gives him an address. Kevin says, "I'm busy, I'm sorry, I can't help you out, my son's waiting for me, I gotta go." And she says, "Your son? You mean Tate?" Kevin's eyes widen, he backs up. I know this because I heard this on descriptive video. His eyes widen and he backs up, pulling him away from the dumpster, and then he starts screaming, "Kashistes! Kashistes!" And so they tackle him and he's screaming, don't let her take my son, don't let her take my son, Kashistes, Kashistes." So they get him to the precinct. They put him in an interrogation room, and he's going on and on, just rambling on. I know, I know she's back there. She's watching me behind the glass. I know she is. You're lying to me. You're snug as a bug in a rug. You pull the rug out from under me, I'll go underground. You're all Kashistes. You're Kashistes, all of you. You can run, but you can't hide. And Elliot says, "Tell me where the boy is." And he says, "No, I'm not going to tell you where the boy is. I won't tell you where he is. I know what's going on here. I know who she is. You're working for that witch behind the window, and she's evil, and she's trying to steal my thoughts, and I will protect myself, and they want to indoctrinate my son, and I will stop you. I will stop you." So Dr. Wong beats on the door. I can't stand Dr. Wong. Dr. Wong is one of these, excuse me, one of these idiots who puts his own well-being and, his own self-esteem, the way his peers will see him, the way he's viewed by his peers, the way he's looked at, all this, he puts that above the welfare and safety of a poor little 5-year-old boy. I can't stand Dr. Wong. You just want to punch him and say, get your head screwed on right. But Dr. Wong wants to dilly-dally around and play games. And he says, well, Elliot says, you got medication? You can give it to him, can't you? He said, Dr. Wong said, he's not my patient. And as long as the courts say he doesn't have to take his medication, I can't medicate him and blah, blah, blah. I could lose my license. Yeah, your license is more important than the welfare and safety of a little boy. And when it comes to saving lives, I don't care. Screw all morals, screw all ethics. That's the way I feel about it. But Dr. Wong, he's playing games, making phone calls. He wants to, take a chance and lose Kevin in the mental health system. If you're lucky, by tomorrow morning, he'll be lucid and ready to tell you. Well, Elliot has a plan. Elliot Stabler has a plan. Meanwhile, Dr. Wong and Detective Benson, they're talking, and Dr. Wong says a bus. They call them buses in New York. I don't know why they call the ambulances buses there, but they do. But anyway, he says, the bus is on the way. He'll be there to pick the guy up. All of a sudden, you hear this crash. And Olivia says, is Elliot still back there with Kevin? And she opens the door. What the hell is going on? And Kevin's just out of it. You're one of them. They sent you, he screams. She wants Tate. She can never have him. He's locked away, hidden away. All your drones, your spies, your secret agents, blah, 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 just going on. And he's fighting with Elliot hard. Well, Dr. Wong tells Olivia, run and get my medical bag. It's in my office. So she does. Meanwhile, they wrestle Kevin to the ground. They pin him down. And then Dr. Wong gives the guy a shot of Haldol mixed with Ativan. And then you hear him screaming, no, no, long drawn-out screams for God, forever, before he finally conks out. But the bus comes, and they get Kevin on board. Elliot goes up there, and he pats Kevin. He says, Kevin, on the shoulder, where's your son? Where's Tate? Kevin says real groggily, he says, don't worry, Tater, baby. Daddy will be home soon. And then he starts to nut off, and Elliot shakes his shoulder and says, hey, you're not going out on me now. Where's Tate? Where's your son? Kevin says, look out the window, baby. Look out the window, Tater. See the man with the big white hat? And then he goes out, and they drive away with him. Well, this is Elliot's this is a clue that they need. In the next scene, Stabler and Benson are looking for this kid everywhere. They're combing different businesses, looking high and low, combing different neighborhoods. And finally, they're driving along, and they're just frantic. And Olivia sees the guy in the big white hat. It's a sign outside a bakery that's for sale. And she says, Elliot, back up, man with the big white hat. So they back up, they park, they get out, and Elliot looks at that building and he says, certainly not in that bakery. And he looks across the street from the bakery. There's this old derelict, condemned building. It's boarded up and everything. And he says, that building, I guarantee you that's where he is. So they go down the stairs to this building. They pry a piece of plywood back. Olivia manages to dislodge the plywood, which knocks her to the ground. Meanwhile, they're screaming, Adam, if you're in there, pound on something. It's the police. And you hear clank, clank, clank in the background, like Adam's pounding on an old beam or pipe or something. So they get the plywood off, and they enter the building. Now, this is the kind of condition this guy had this little boy in. This was horrible. It was despicable. It was deplorable. A chunk of the handrail breaks loose when Benson grabs onto it, and it falls to the floor. They reach the landing at the top of the stairs. Elliot falls through the landing, has to lift himself out of there. He says, oh, my armpit's killing me, you know. This boy could have easily been killed. God knew what all was in that building with the kid. He's in a hell on earth, doesn't know what's going on from one day to the next because he's in the dark. There could have been snakes, rats, mice, spiders, any number of a poisonous or disease-carrying vector. There could have been mold in that place. So they follow the clanging, and they turn to the left. They open this door, and Adam is in this room. And he is bound. He is tied to this pole with duct tape across his mouth. This is where my sympathy for Kevin James Walker flies out the window. Elliot asks him, are you okay? And the boy says, I think so, And he's scared. Well, they pull the tape off his mouth, get him on tape, get him untied and everything. And Olivia cradles him in her arms and says, it's going to be all right. We're going to get you back to your mommy. I love Olivia Benson. True maternal instinct. Mariska Hargitay, she played a good part in SVU. She was a great detective. I love Olivia Benson. She's my favorite. Obviously, she's a favorite of a friend too, because this family that I know, their granddaughter's named after her. Not the Benson part, but the Olivia part. I think it's pretty cool. But they get Adam out of there, and then the scene shifts to Casey Novak, who's the prosecuting attorney, for those of you who have never seen SVU. Casey Novak is sitting at her desk writing out her report. And Kevin James Walker's legal aid attorney, is how she worded it, really blunt and to the fact. Rebecca Balthus. This is a snake-ass... Oh, I have so many names to call her. She's a snake. She's a real snake, I'll tell you. She's a... Oh, man, you just want to... set her straight. She approaches Casey Novak. She says, Casey Novak? Rebecca Balthus, Kevin Walker's legal aid attorney. Your boss ordered you to try my client? Casey said no. He just signed off on it. I told him it was going to trial. This witch snaps. Well, it's a waste of your time and money. She says, he's a paranoid schizophrenic. He's a lunatic. And a jury will have him institutionalized quicker than you can say, Kashisti. Now, if you remember, Kashisti was what he was saying when they found him. Kashisti, you're all Kashistis. Well, if I was writing that script, I would have had it written that Casey Novak looked that wretch in the eye and said, well, Rebecca Balthus, Kashisti. It's still going to trial, isn't it? I would have done that. But anyway, she says, I'll have his records to you. You can look at them. Casey said, not good enough. I want him to be interviewed by our psychiatrist. Rebecca Balthus says real snidely, thank you, and turns on her heels. You can't stand her. I mean, Rebecca Balthus, that woman, oh man, I just can't stand her. Well, Dr. Wong, always white and never Wong. I can't stand him. He goes in there to interview Kevin, and Kevin's lucid as a cucumber now, and he's talking and telling them all about the Kashistis, what the Kashistis are, their secret police, and how, when he doesn't take his meds, they start talking to him. Well, he doesn't want to talk about things. And this is the part of, I do feel sorry for Kevin for this reason. I do feel sorry for him for this, this, I can sympathize with him for what happened that led up to his discontinuation of his medicine. That was wrong. It was morally repugnant. And I'll get to that later on. But this is the part that really gets to me, because he says, Dr. Wong says, tell me about the night you took Adam. Kevin says, okay. He says, I went up the fire escape several times, but the Kashistis kept telling me to stop. Until that night, and then they said it was time. Okay, I have a hard time buying this. I have a hard time really buying this. I think that he was wrestling with his conscience. To kidnap, not to kidnap. To kidnap, not to kidnap. To kidnap, not to kidnap. And then on that night he said, the hell with it, I'm taking the boy. Okay. And he climbed up that fire escape, slit that screen, and like a raccoon in the night, snatched that little boy out of the bed. Snatched him up and took him away. Well, Dr. Wong said, he said, did you throw the chair at the, did the Kashisis tell you to throw the chair at in the police station? Kevin said, oh no. He said, I did that because I was scared. Dr. Wong said, scared of what? And he says, the police officer. Dr. Wong said, Detective Stabler? Kevin said, yeah. He said, what? Dr. Wong said, why were you scared of Detective Stabler? Kevin said, because he came in and told me that the Kashistis were going to take my son Tate away, and if I didn't tell him where he was, they would kill me. That's what forced Kevin to freak out. And the only thing I could do is applaud Elliot Stabler in this. Good, because you know what? They found that little boy, and he's back in the arms of his mother. If they did it the Wong way, which is the wrong way, God knows what condition they would have found Adam in. He probably would have died there before they found him. Wouldn't that be something? They're looking high and low for Adam. The case goes on and on and on, and finally there's a report of a foul stench, the stench of death coming from the condemned building. Passersby can smell it. So they go in and break the plywood down and everything, and there's Adam Forbes, starved to death and bloated from death, Now, wouldn't that be something? Oh, well, that would be a hell of a thing to carry on my chest. Mrs. Forbes, I'm sorry. Please hear me out. I screwed up, and I followed the SVU psychiatrist who told me just to let things play out in the moral and ethical way. So in doing this, we failed both Adam and you and your other son and Adam's father, the ex-husband. We failed you all. And I wouldn't blame her if she turned around and sued me. But here's the thing. Dr. Wong, after Kevin made the revelation of how Elliot forced him into a break, basically coerced a confession. I would have done the same thing. Well, right now, Elliot's the bad guy, and he's being run through the Wong ringer. You forced him to break so I could medicate him and you could get his confession. That's coercion, blah, blah, blah. And Elliot set him straight. He said, you know what, Dr. Wong? I'm so sick and tired of you making Kevin the victim. He said, think about the people that Kevin killed. The man that Kevin killed. Think about the other man who Kevin gravely injured. Think about Adam Forbes. Those are your victims, not Kevin. The only thing Kevin is a victim of is how a group home, treated him and threw him out on the street. That's the only thing that Kevin's a victim of. But in this case, he's not a victim. He's a criminal. And there's a reason why. And, when Casey Novak was talking to Rebecca Balthus before the interview, Walker interview, she said point blank, she said, listen, Rebecca, your client stalked Adam Forbes for days. He had pictures. He had, marked key points where the boy would be. He groomed that boy. He gave him candy bars. He had duct tape, knives, ropes, everything. He cautiously eluded the police. He consciously eluded the police. He knew what he was doing, plain and simple. Casey Novak pointed that out. So Dr. Wong wants to paint Kevin as the poor soul, poor sap, Sorry, doesn't work that way. Well, in the courtroom, Judge, I forgot her name. I think it was Danielle Larson, and Kevin's standing before her, and he said, I want to tell you that I am sincerely sorry for my actions, and I am a paranoid schizophrenic, and I took Adam Forbes because, my delusions, and, he says, I feel totally responsible for my actions. Well, after his statement, Danielle Larson says, well, we're going to order you to the custody of the, I forgot what it is, the mental health authorities, something like that. But anyway, he says, no, Judge, you can't send me back there. They will kill me, Your Honor. They'll kill me like they did Martha. Well, an investigation played out, and Detective Stabler really looked into it, and come to find out, the group home where Kevin stayed, it was a piss-poor ran institution, and there was a woman named Martha who she died because her AC wasn't on. They wouldn't turn her AC on. It was hot. She wouldn't come out of her room. Kevin overheard them ordering the staff to slit her wrists to make it look like she committed suicide. And, it's just a bunch of things that happened. And so Kevin threatened to tell, and they said, you're out of here. They didn't give him his medication, and they waited until he started hearing delusions, and they threw him out on the street. Now, this is the part I do sympathize with Kevin for. I do. I sympathize with him for that. Well, the group home was shut down, and yeah, that's the way this story ended. But Kevin was allowed to see his son Tate. His ex-wife brought Tate to the hospital to see him after he was doing well, and, but still, this story had a sad turn to it. But, I cannot say that the guy was totally under the control of his kashistis. I cannot say that. I can't say that. And the knives, the rope, the duct tape, the pictures that he took, the candy bars he gave the boy, all the stuff he did, he even, when Emilio Vasquez, when back during that interview, when Detective Stabler asked him, he says, well, did Kevin know where Adam lived? How did Kevin find out where Adam Forbes lived? And well, come to find out, Emilio Vasquez was the only one in the store working there because Lester had gone somewhere, and Kevin was all he had. So he asked Kevin to make the delivery to Adam Forbes' residence. So he went there. Okay, now every time Adam Forbes was in the store, Carolyn said that Kevin would give her son, Adam, a candy bar. And she thought it was weird. Well, on the day of the delivery, Kevin left a candy bar on Adam's bed. He groomed that little boy. He groomed that little boy to gain his trust. And he wrestled with his conscience before going up that fire escape. Yeah, the Kashistis told me to stop my tuchus. To kidnap, not to kidnap. To kidnap, not to kidnap. To kidnap, not to kidnap. To hell with it, I'm going through with it. Okay, who carried Adam out of that room? Was it Kevin James Walker or a big and burly Kashisti? This is the part I don't commiserate with him for. I don't. But I can say that I'm sorry for what happened to him at that group home. That was wrong. I wouldn't have done that to anybody. That is totally despicable. And for somebody to do that to somebody, that makes them totally inhumane. It makes them hideous, to be exact. But the outcome turned out good. Kevin got to see his son, and it really broke my heart because he wanted a picture of Tate that the group home, when they threw him out, he had some things there. He had some his belongings were there. And he said, Kevin said, Detective Stabler, he says, they wouldn't give my belongings to me. And he said, on my dresser, I had a picture of my son Tate. Will you go get it and bring it to me? That hurt. That hurt. But Detective Stabler went back there, and as they searched the manor after these thugs were taken down, he couldn't find any of Kevin's stuff or the picture of Tate. So he went and bought Kevin a digital camera, and he went and told Kevin's ex-wife that she needed to come and bring Tate to see him. And she did. Detective Stabler approaches him and says, yeah, I couldn't find your picture, but I got you this. And Kevin said, what's this for? When Stabler hands him the camera, and he says, you'll find out. He goes out in the hall, and then later Tate and his mom enter the room, and it's just really cool. And Kevin just brushes the kid's hair and says, Daddy missed you. And, so there's a positive turnout to that. There is. But he was responsible for what happened to Adam Forbes. Untold Stories of the ER is a great show. It ran on TLC for the longest time. I now listen to it on Freevee, which is a great app. And I saw, and this is going to be a short statement to make, but there comes a time when demanding for medical attention when you don't need it becomes a criminal act. I feel so sorry for the doctors, the nurses, the other staff who have to deal with these types of people. When there's nothing wrong with them whatsoever, but they're demanding medical treatment. They want to be cut on, poked on, prodded, every test you can run they want. I saw this one where this woman was faking a heart attack. Munchausen, they call it. She was faking a heart attack just to get tests run. She was faking a heart attack so they could run tests on her. And there was nothing wrong with her. So she wouldn't leave, and anytime they wrote her discharge papers, she would run right out and tell other people, oh, this doctor's being mean to me, blah, blah, blah. I think it was Dr. Foster who had made several appearances on this show. But it's Untold Stories of the ER. Finally, in her last attempt, after the third or fourth time to try to discharge this criminal, yes, criminal, she runs right to the hospital chapel, and she gets the nuns all pissed off at Dr. Foster. They're treating me bad, blah, blah. So Dr. Foster has no other choice but to admit this puke And it's just horrible. I'll tell you what. I think there has to be some major consequences. There have to be some consequences for people who do this when there's nothing wrong with you and you can demand this crap and you can pull medical staff away from the people who truly need and deserve all the help they can get. You know, this really ticks me off because while the doctor is dealing with this loser over here, on the other side of the emergency department, okay, throughout the emergency department, you have 2-year-old Christopher who has pulled a deep fryer full of hot grease on himself. Can't get treatment. You know, that's one more treatment taken away from him. Grandpa is having a heart attack, a legitimate heart attack, unlike Faker over here. Grandma is having an epileptic seizure, and there could be a multi-car pileup over here with multiple casualties. Meanwhile, the doctors have to devote their time and attention to this lowlife. I think there has to be a time and a place to draw the line. And when this happens, I think there should be, serious jail time, perhaps prison time for this kind of crap. I really do. I really do. Because it is uncalled for. It is uncalled for. And I don't care. People who hurt their kids to get attention, make their kids sick to get attention. Oh, he's got a high fever, doc, help me. Same thing. Prison time. I don't care. That's wrong, especially when you can hurt a child for your attention, for your own gratification. You can hurt your kid. That goes totally, that's too far, in my opinion, and you deserve prison time, definitely, for doing that. If you can hurt your kid, damn near kill him, you are nothing. You are the scourge of the earth. That is rotten, okay? You do crap to yourself, that's one thing, okay? Should you go to jail for a while? Yeah, you should. But when you go out to hurt somebody else for your own pleasure, that is the epitome of crime. I'm Flying Jake. Let me know what you think. Hit that like and subscribe. I'll be back with more content. Until then, take care.